Friends, I think the topic for the chosen for today is the corporate governance, a paradigm shift. Is one of the most relevant topic which has been discussed and debated day in day out in the corporate world. The first and foremost is why we require the corporate governance. Is it a new buzzword or it is a requirement? As we see, the organizations are becoming bigger and bigger. They are taking various resources from the society. The various stakeholders are there, such as investors, the creditors, the bankers, where the society at large get impacted if the organization are not using the resources effectively or the structure of democratization is not taking shape. So in this evolving world, when the corporates are becoming transnational in character and they are so big, then once they are being called, that the bigger organization cannot fail. As we see the Lehman Brothers failure, the failures of Enron, and even in India the Satyam. There are some things which are related to corporate governance. Either there is accounting fraud or the fraud of it led by the promoters in the case of Satyam, or the issues of, I will say, the risk management as in the case of Lehman Brothers. So the corporates are looking for the policies and set of procedures by which the democratization of board, in the sense that they can make effective decision making, at the same time a relevant control on the management, and they should remain at the same time accountable to all the stakeholders. Earlier we used to have a promoter driven companies, a promoter driven partnership companies, or the enterprises which are proprietorship. Today we have a large organization and they require a very robust kind of internal mechanism. So corporate governance is no longer a kind of a buzzword, but is a requirement for the society at large and for all the stakeholders who have invested it, or the beneficiaries, or the I will say intersectional relevance with respect to the well-being and efficiency of the organizations. Why we require systems which are appropriate and they take care of broad decision making. If we look at the overall structure of the corporate, there is a general body meeting, there is a board, there is a management, and there are stakeholders. If I compare with our own democratic systems which function, then we have to see there the accountability comes. We have a parliament, we have a executive in the shape of a permanent executives in the government. There is judiciary and there is a media. In the same manner, if we look at, there is a board which sets the policies, which require to control the functioning of the management, like the parliament oversight. The legislation, the broad policy are formulated by the parliament. The executives are made accountable through the parliament, through parliamentary budgeting process, the setting the principles and the goals by the parliament, and there is a parliament standing committee which do the oversight on behalf of parliament. But there is an independent judiciary which looks into that both the roles of legislation and executives, where they are not performing the desired manner as enshrined in the constitution, there is a function which has to be taken care of. Similar roles has been provided for the corporate governance in the form of annual general meeting, where the voting percentage, the policy can be formulated, and there is a national law tribunal, company law board to take care of that. And the necessary part which require the transparency in the form of a media, which plays the role to make the democracy vibrant. The governance norms are coming which make the whole system more transparent. So the various disclosure norms have been prescribed in the form of corporate governance. So it is a kind of a system which need to be made more robust, more participative. And as we see that India is also adopting the corporate governance from the year of 1997, when the Kumar Mangalam Birla Committee was constituted for corporate governance norms, which resulted into a clause 49, which has been listed companies which have been prescribed by SEBI through the stock exchanges for compliances. The clause 49 basically lays down what should be the structure of the audit committee, what should be the powers of the audit committee. It defines what is the roles of independent directors, and it also lays down the director responsibility statement. But there was a lot of uncomfortableness was felt by the various stakeholders. It provides only the structure, but the substance is missing in certain manner. And that's why there was a committee in the chairmanship of Mr. Narayan Murthy, which modifies the clause 49 in a very big manner, and also lists down the various parameters of definition of independent director, certification by the CFO and CEOs, quarterly review of accounts, and the risk management and mitigation. But any kind of a structure which is there cannot be fulfilled unless until there is a leadership which is ethical and which prescribe a robust mechanism for leadership for efficiency, leadership for probity, and leadership with responsibility, and which is transparent and which is accountable, and which is make itself in a manner in which within which a corporate is run for achieving its objective. Transparency of its operations, accounting and reporting system should be robust and independent, and good corporate citizenship. And 2013 Companies Bill is a shift towards that. It's a paradigm shift in the sense it creates a very robust kind of a mechanism on three pillars. The pillars are the independence of audit functions, the very robust kind of a mechanism of independent directors, creating a mandatory committees through a board in which a significant role has been provided to the independent directors. And third is disclosure and transparency. And wherever the corporates are not following those norms which have been prescribed, the penal provision has been laid down in the sense of wherever the disclosures are not there, the penalties have been imposed on the corporates, and wherever the negligence on the part of a criminal intent or I will say the participation in the frauds, there is a criminal breach of trust regulation has been formulated, which led to even the imprisonment of the directors and the auditors in certain manners. So it is a very paradigm shift in the sense earlier it was a voluntary code of conduct only for the listed companies. Now it is mandatory in nature, not only for the listed company, also for unlisted companies. And unlisted companies not in all the cases, but which are relevant for the societies and relevant from the corporate responsible point of view. And the reporting systems and disclosures has been made very robust. Even the unlisted companies which are part of a subsidiary or a joint venture or an associate of a listed company, a very detailed procedure of even consolidation of accounts and disclosure has been made mandatory. The AGM functioning, which happens to be on the basis of proxy votes, the proxy culture has been, I will say, curtailed in a manner. Now nobody can be a proxy for more than 50 shareholders. And there is a e-voting principle has been laid down, which makes the whole system more transparent. So what I see that the AGM functioning, the board responsibility, the roles of independent director and independence of auditors led to a very paradigm shift into that. And to ensure that these three pillars, the auditors, the independent directors and the disclosures are effectively monitored, there is a norms has been prescribed. That means the auditors which earlier happens to be appointed and they become almost a life auditors for time to come for a corporations. Now the time period has been prescribed. A auditor which is an individual person or a partner can function only for 5 years. Thereafter, if it is a firm, it can be for a maximum period of 2 terms of 5 years and thereafter a mandatory cooling period. Even at the independent directors which are there, they have been made have to disclose they are actually independent. Earlier, the independent director can be even a nominee director. Now this concept has been gone away. There is a complete curtain, I will say, created between independent directors and the promoters in the system. Now, you can create the system, but those systems should make functional can be made only by the human being. To ensure that the responsibilities and duties have been prescribed for independent directors in a very significant manner, in which now the independent director has been made the chairman of the audit committee, the stakeholders committee, they are responsible for the grievance committee, and there is a predominance of independent directors in the audit committee. And audit committee has been made not only very powerful in the sense its recommendations are binding on the board, it is also in the sense there is a pre-independence and predominance of the independent directors in the audit committee to ensure the governance principles, all the accounting decisions, the financial decisions, the review of financial policy of the company, and the accounting regulations are required to be approved now by the audit committee. So there is a very robust architecture has been prescribed by the new company's bill, but any kind of architecture, it requires the individuals which are working in the board also be made accountable. And for that, there is a democracy in the audit committee has been brought. Even the AGMs have been made more democratized. And I will say there is one more development which is taking place globally. The private equity players are bringing the corporate governance in the system. Now the shareholders are getting more organized. I can share one of my own example. When I holding a special annual general meeting of the board, and when the disclosure has been made with certain resolutions, I got a call from one of the advisory firm, which has nothing to do with any kind of a person. They are advising the shareholder that their disclosures are not full and transparent. And there was a meeting was arranged in which the full disclosure was provided from our side, so that the shareholders can get the necessary information in which they can take an informed decision. So there is a wave of, I will say, independent people are coming in the system which are leading the charge. The corporate governance also leading to the premium to the shareholders valuation, in the sense the good corporations are being valued, or their private equity players value their the PE multiples higher than the other organizations which are not so robust in their corporate governance. So this is the capital markets are also bringing a very seesaw change in the country so far as the corporate governance are concerned. But I feel the banking institutions, which are conscious keeper of the private people's money and the public money also, has to play a more active role in ensuring the corporate governance in the boards, because they have a significant influence on the decision making in the board. The private equity players, the participation and the valuation is leading a very robust disclosure mechanism, and the participation in the board is leading a more democratic decision making process. These kind of things are bringing a lot of changes in the corporate governance in the country, but still there is a long way go in our country so far as the corporate governance is concerned. For that, better process for appointment of independent directors are required. The board training programs are to be made robust, because many directors which are there are not very well aware of their responsibilities, their duties, and because of that the decision making are taking certain times which are not in the interest of all stakeholders. The subcommittees of the board need to be made more participative, and I will say more participation from their side to seek the information from the management, so that management can be made more accountable through the subcommittees toward the functioning of the board. Segregation of the function of the chairman and managing director is perhaps required, so that the management, which is the operative function, should be continued to be done by the CEO, and the chairman should be somebody who should be very eminent person and lead to the segregation of the corporate governance norms, and he should direct and control the management. And direction and control is very much essential for effective, I will say, the management responsibility towards the board for achieving the goals, not only for the investor but also all stakeholders. Even the involvement of employees and other stakeholders are required. So the corporate governance, the structure has been prescribed, the rules and regulation has been laid down by the new companies bill, but still there is a long way to go by putting them in action and ensuring the independence of the independent directors should not only be in theory but should be in practical, and it should be followed by letter and spirit. And the independence of auditor need to be strengthened not only by the mechanism of rotation but also making them accountable to National Financial Reporting Authority, which has been created to ensure that accounting standard not only being complied in letter but also in spirit, and wherever there is an auditor which are complicit and conniving with the management, they should be made accountable in the sense of exemplary punishment, even certain times wherever they are party to the fraud by imprisonment. So the institutions are required to be put into a practice by which the disclosure of norms should be made more robust, and management should be made accountable and made adopt the corporate governance as a process to comply with the provisions of the company's law, but as a system to make themselves accountable to the larger society and its stakeholders. I hope so. The deliberation of the today's and the tomorrow will lead some kind of conclusion which will go not only to the government, Institute of Company Secretaries, ICI, but also the corporate bodies, how they can improve the corporate governance in their day-to-day functioning. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your deep knowledge with us. It was full of enthusiasm and valuable knowledge. J.P. Sharma is a professor of law and corporate governance in the Department of Commerce and currently head Department of Commerce and former Dean, Faculty of Commerce and Business at the Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. In the last over 40 years of his academic career, he held several academic and administrative positions. He has supervised 21 PhDs, 23 MPhil dissertations. He has authored 15 books and around many research papers published in several national and international journals of repute. His book, titled Corporate Governance, Business Ethics and CSR, has on its review written by Sir Adrian Cadbury, who in 1992 gave the world its first code on corporate governance. He is a recipient of Shiksha Gaurav Puraskar, awarded by the Center for Education Growth and Research, New Delhi. He was invited by the Sussex Law School in United Kingdom for series of lectures for the research scholars and PG students. In 2012, he was invited by the Department of Management at the King's College London to deliver special lecture to PG students. Also, he was invited to deliver a keynote address in a 2-day international trade and academic research conference organized by ABRM's Business and Management Review at the University of London Union, London. J.P. Sharma sir's achievements are endless and the whole day will be less to share this. So I invite our keynote speaker, Professor J.P. Sharma, to enlighten the audience by his immense knowledge. Sir, please.
Thank you, organizers, especially Urvashi Chandrasekhar, the chairman of the college, Nand Kishoreji, and other speakers on the dais. Thank you everyone present here for this conference. You know, this subject, till about 2.5 decades ago, it was relatively unknown in any part of the world. This subject of governance, corporate governance, came into prominence in late 80s and early 90s, when in one single year, 4 biggest corporates of the world suddenly failed. Maxwell Communication, which was the largest publishing house of the world, based at London. BCCI, the 7th largest bank of the world, based at London. Polypack, the biggest textile company of the world, based at London. When three biggest corporate failed in one country, London, the government of UK came into action. And government of UK assigned the job to Sir Adrian Cadbury, the former chairman of Cadbury Company. What should be done? What should be done? That such kind of situation is not repeated in the country again. Like my government assigned the job to a high-powered committee after Satyam, what should be done? Irani committee. And Adrian committee submitted 19 recommendations, and out of those every recommendation of Adrian committee was adopted by not only UK government, by almost every country, even smallest countries, I will not name, almost every country, as it is. Somewhere with minor changes here and there. And there were series of codes given to the world after 91. In 95, there was a Green Committee. Not only in UK, in many countries, there were reforms announced by way of the recommendations of various committees. In Blue Ribbon Committee, or this committee, or that committee. After almost every year, there were developments in this area. And the world was adopting those recommendations in the form of codes. But in 99 and 2000 and 2001 and 2, in those 3-4 years, you remember, there were again series of collapses. And there were over 2 dozen big corporates collapsed suddenly. And almost in every part of the world, except this eastern side, India and other countries. In one single country, USA, there were over a half a dozen corporates suddenly failed. What.com, the largest telecom company, Enron, the largest energy company, Anderson, the largest accounting firm. Not only in USA, in Europe, Swiss Air failed, Vivendi France failed, Kiss Media failed. In China also there were 2 companies failed. In Korea, Daewoo failed. And because most of the corporate they failed in USA, so government of USA came into action. And government of USA assigned the job to 2 key people in USA, Paul Servens and Michael Oxley. Paul Servens, the former senator, Michael Oxley, the former vice president of NASDAQ, they were given the job, what should be done. And the major problem in those failures was the collusion between management and auditors. And so those 2 key people, they submitted recommendation. Based on the recommendation, government of USA enacted a law, Sarbanes-Oxley Act 2002. And its main focus is on how to monitor auditors in the country. And world adopted Sarbanes-Oxley also, including India. Almost every big corporate across the globe adopted Sarbanes-Oxley, but Satyam failed. Satyam was complying almost every code. Not only those Adrians and other codes, but Sarbanes and other, in addition to that, many other codes. And Satyam failed. It generated interest. And then I conducted a study. I have not charged any paisa from any source. It was a self-study. I did a study in 2009. It took me 10 months completing that study. And while conducting that study, I had to visit. चंद्रशेखर साहब, आपका कहीं जज साहब से पहले बात तो नहीं हो गई थी कि कॉन्फ्रेंस में रखने जा रहा हूँ और जजमेंट 9 तारीख को दीजिए? आज सारा टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया का फुल पेज भरा हुआ है ऊपर फ्रंट सत्यम पर. पेज नंबर 16 फुल पेज सत्यम पर. पेज नंबर 19 देयर इज हाफ पेज सत्यम पर. I had to visit that Andhra Pradesh, I think over 2 dozen times. The villages which this whole family bought, पूरा का पूरा गांव खरीदा हुआ, Loyalpalli village and other villages. I visited that Godavari region from the region this family belonged to, Hyderabad, where this family is settled, Guntur, Eluru, Vijayawada, and other places of Andhra Pradesh. Met some senior people who resigned long back from the company. Also, this company received the highest award on corporate governance, Golden Peacock Award. Met the officials of the World Council for Corporate Governance at London. And also those regulatory bodies, especially SFIO, Serious Fraud Investigation Office, which was assigned the job, was looking into Satyam. its recommendations. It is in 29 volumes. मैं केवल उसका जो summary conclusion है वही देख पाया मैं उसको, और it has not been made public. लेकिन मैंने उसको अपने जो connections हैं sources से वो procure किया और उसको मैंने study में दिया है इसमें all those figures, and also the enforcement directorate findings, also the findings of the CBI. And then my study was completed in November 2009. I presented this paper at Birmingham, and I am very lucky that my session was chaired by Sir Adrian Cadbury. And when I sent him the full draft of my first book, he readily agreed to review that book, and he took 4 months reviewing that book. And जो अभी उर्वशी जी ने जिक्र किया, बहरहाल, because of the time, if you have any interest in the figures. Do you have interest in figures of Satyam? You want any material on Satyam? You know, if you go into the history of this family, way back in 1987, it was June, when this company was set up. A very small company with just 20 employees as a private company at Hyderabad. It was a middle class family. Settled at Hyderabad, belonging to a village in Andhra Pradesh. His father Satyanarayana Raju, जिस पर ये सारी कंपनियां बेस्ड हैं, सत्यम, his father's name is Satyanarayana Raju, and so it was a middle class family. It had 5 kinds of businesses: spinning and weaving mills set up in 1982, Satyam Constructions set up in 1984, Satyam Homes dealing into constructing apartments, Satyam Impex dealing to shoe uppers exports, and Oceanic Farms. But because when he came from the Ohio University, he is an alumnus of Ohio University. His mission was IT business, and so he prevailed upon the family, and the family decided to concentrate its whole energies only on 2 sectors, IT and construction. And that is how this company was given to the country, Satyam Software Services Private Limited, in 1987. This company grew at a very fast speed. It was converted into a public company in 91. Its first issue was oversubscribed 15 times. This family set up 4 subsidiaries in 96. In 97, this company was considered as one of the fastest growing company in the IT sector in the world, across the world, by a world-renowned magazine based at Switzerland. This man received the IT Man of the Year award in 2000. And finally, this company received the highest award, so-called highest award, Golden Peacock Award on good governance, good corporate governance, awarded by World Council for Corporate Governance, based at London. And it received the award in September 2008, and it failed in January 2009. So when I was invited by World Council for Corporate Governance to address the delegates at London, what went wrong with Satyam? तो मैंने सोचा कि मैं तो कहाँ एक गरीब से परिवार से था, हिंदू कॉलेज में जब मुझे एडमिशन लिया, मैंने तो फीस नहीं थी मेरे पास, हो सकता है ईश्वर ने मुझे यही कहने के लिए भेजा हो. And there was sitting not less than the presidents, vice chairmen of various companies. It was a awarding ceremony, Golden Peacock. मैंने कहा, your honorable body, that chairman of that body was the Prime Minister of Sweden, and there were around half a dozen cabinet ministers sitting from UK government, and very prominent people were sitting. Your honorable body awarded the Golden Peacock award to that company Satyam, and that company failed within 3 months. Even the award given by your honorable body is questionable. बाद में मैं रुका नहीं, मैंने डिनर भी नहीं किया, मैं चुपके से निकल आया वहां से फिर. So this company received the highest award, Golden Peacock, in September 2008, and company failed in January 2009. कैसे? When on 16 December this company announced buyback of its 2 subsidiaries, Mehta's Properties and Mehta's Infrastructure, for $1.6 billion. It is a huge amount, over 7,000 crores. And market share price of Satyam crashed. First day crashed by 55%, second day by another 14%, that is by around 70%. Not only market share prices crashed, but the longest and the highest client of the company, World Bank, withdrew from the company. charging the company with data theft and other bribery and other culture, and blacklisted the company for 8 years. Not only that, 4 of the 6 independent directors, they were all renowned people. They withdrew from the company, they resigned from the company. पूछो 20 साल से क्या कर रहे थे? Mangalam Srinivasan, a renowned professor, was there on the board from Harvard. Krishna Parekhu, another renowned professor from Harvard, was on the board. They were there. Mangalam Srinivasan, she was there as independent director since 91. And when those 4 independent directors resigned, the chairman had no option, but he put his papers, he written a mail, बहुत चालाकी से उसने. It was a very cleverly drafted mail, written to SEBI. It was 7th January. SEBI within minutes was in action. कभी सुना है आपने SEBI इतनी quick action लेती हो? Within minutes. Forwarded that mail to Ministry of Corporate Affairs, because the regulator in the case of a company is MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Ministry of Corporate Affairs was also very active. Convened a meeting of the dozens of advocates same day. A petition was drafted same day, and next day was holiday. It was Muharram. कभी सुना है कि गवर्नमेंट के सारे ऑफिस उसमें MCA के सारे ऑफिस खुले हुए हैं मुहर्रम के दिन? And a petition was drafted, filed on 8th before the Kampala board, because the power to dissolve the board they were available to the Kampala board. And the Kampala board heard the petition, announced the verdict, and next day government announced dissolution of the board, put 3 new members, Deepak Parikh and others, on the board, added 3 more members on the board, and those 6 members of the board arranged a buyer. Tech Mahindra already had a 31% stake, and by paying the remaining amount 2,888 crores to the new management, bought Satyam, renamed Satyam as Mahindra Satyam, and Mahindra Satyam was merged ultimately last year with Tech Mahindra, and now it is Tech Mahindra. मतलब क्या हुआ इसका? Company never dies. I have in my book for PG students, उसका सेकंड एडिशन नहीं आया है, दैट इज इन द प्रोसेस, 2010 से लेके रीप्रिंट आए हैं उसके, उसमें आई हैव स्टडीड 34 स्कैम्स अक्रॉस द ग्लोब. Except Anderson, other corporates, they were bought by either countries or companies. And so Satyam was bought by Tech Mahindra, and so अब ऐसा क्या खास बात थी? So government was in action. आप ध्यान करिए, जनवरी 2009, there were Lok Sabha elections due in May 2009. Government could not afford 9 lakhs of shareholders, investors in the country. तो डिसीजंस कैसे होते हैं इंडिया में? इंडिया क्या, मैं अपने कंट्री की बात नहीं कर रहा, सब जगह ऐसा ही है. मैंने आई हैव ट्रेवल्ड ओवर 40 कंट्रीज, मैंने सब देखा है, विल नॉट गो टू. सो दैट वाज द रीजन. हैड इट बीन some other country, it would have taken years, USA or other countries. But in India, a company which failed on 7th January, it was saved on 9th January, within 48 hours. Meaning, dissolving board, appointing new members of the board, those members, they arrange a buyer, and finally it was, and now, इसका शेयर उस वक्त में क्या था? 6 रुपए पर पहुंच गया था, और आज की तारीख में शेयर आप पता करिए उसका टेक महिंद्रा का कहां पहुंचा. So, बार बार चंद्रशेखर मेरी तरफ देख रहे हैं टाइम की वजह से. सो कमिंग टू नाउ, व्हाट वर द प्रॉब्लम्स? व्हाट वर द प्रॉब्लम्स? प्रॉब्लम्स व्हिच आई हैव नोटिस्ड, यू नो, द प्रॉब्लम्स इन वेरियस कॉर्पोरेट स्कैम्स, कुछ भी कोई भी देख लीजिए आप, दे आर कॉमन. यू नो, गवर्नेंस, इट इज बेस्ड ऑन 3 pillars. One is commitment to values, second is ethical conduct, third is exercise of powers in a responsible way. These are the 3 pillars of good governance. Commitment to values, ethical conduct, exercise of powers in a responsible way. अब there is a huge literature on value system. एक मेरी किताब है, उसमें मैंने एक पूरा चैप्टर दिया है. Second, there is a huge literature on business ethics. And third, जो मैं कहता हूं, जिस पर ज्यादा फोकस करता हूं यूथ के लिए खास तौर से, exercise of powers in a responsible way. First is commitment to values. Every business has a value system. Every community, every family, every college, every university, every country has a value system provided those values are good values. One should be committed to those values. Second, it should be a clear-cut case of ethical conduct. I will not go into those details. Third, which is very important, exercise of powers in a responsible way means powers is available to this side. And this side in the case of company is the board. In the case of college is the principal and the managing committee. In the case of university, the vice chancellor and his team. In the case of country, it is the prime minister and his cabinet. Always exercise the powers in a responsible way means keep the interest of the other side. Other side in the case of company is long list of stakeholders. In addition to the shareholders, directors, board and employees and others, public is also one of the major stakeholders, and so always keep the interest of the other side. And so, if you analyze these corporate scams which happened across the globe, you will find similarities. Unethical conduct, common. Collusion between auditors and management, common. Laxity on the part of the board is common. Role of the so-called watchdogs. अब ये पढ़ते हैं ना बुक्स में, watchdog. SEBI is the watchdog. Rating agency is the watchdog. Auditors are the watchdog. Independent directors are the watchdog. The role of these watchdogs in almost every corporate scam I have noticed is questionable. And then I recommended that there is a need to watch the activities of these watchdogs. There should be somebody. And so, now, coming to Satyam, especially in the case of Satyam, what I have noticed, it is a clear-cut case of unethical conduct on the part of the management. कम से कम 20 पेज है मेरी स्टडी में. कैसे? This family set up 356 fake companies. Only on paper. Only on paper. With just smallest amount, that is 1 lakh rupees and 5 lakh rupees. And when this company collapsed, in those companies, somewhere it was found 10 crore, somewhere it was many crore. It is the finding of the Enforcement Directorate, CBI and SFIO. Somewhere it was 15 crore, somewhere 50 crores like that. And for those companies, अब डायरेक्टर तो चाहिए ना कंपनीज के लिए, चाहे प्राइवेट है, दो तो चाहिए. Those faithful, because this family had dozens of, पूरा गांव के गांव खरीदे हुए हैं. आज की तारीख में तो वहां बोर्ड लगे हुए हैं, it is Government of India land. So it had over hundreds of gardens. So those four faithful gardeners to the family, they were put on the board of those companies. Drivers, this family had over 200 trucks. Those faithful drivers to the family, they were put on the board of those companies. मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं ये. It is the finding of the Enforcement Directorate, sir. सत्यम, doing असत्यम, संस्कृत का वर्ड है. 6 accounts were opened at UK, London. Huge amount was transferred. Within a few days, those accounts were closed. So, now, it is a clear-cut case of fraudulent accounting. Fixed deposit. On record, कितनी दिखाई है? 3,306 करोड़. कितनी FD मिली है जब ये कंपनी बंद हुई? Only 9.96 करोड़. That means the banks were also in collusion. It is a clear-cut case of insider trading. The whole family offloaded its shares long before the collapse. अरे जब कंपनी बंद होती है तो तभी तो पैनिक होता है ना, उससे पहले तो आप बेचोगे शेयर, महीना 2 महीना 6 महीना पहले. इसने क्या किया, जब मार्केट पीक पर था, 400 पर शेयर था इसका, तो पूरी फैमिली ने अपना पैसा निकाल लिया. 2 साल पहले, 1.5 साल पहले, 1 साल पहले. The family had initially 80% stake, then it came down to 25%, and when the company dissolved or closed, it was just 3.4%. कंपनी बंद हुई, किसका पैसा जाएगा? शेयर होल्डर का, इन्वेस्टर्स का. इट इज ए क्लियर कट केस ऑफ इनसाइडर ट्रेडिंग. मैं जितनी भी, जहां भी मुझे बुलाया गया सत्यम पे, जहां मैं बोला हूं, मैंने फोकस किया इस पर. तो ये कहां है रेगुलेटर सेबी? एक्सेप्ट सहारा. हैव यू हर्ड सेबी टेकिंग एनी एक्शन? एक्सेप्ट सहारा. और सहारा पर भी तब है, उसके पीछे भी मैं आई एम वर्किंग ऑन सहारा. आई एम ऑल्सो वर्किंग ऑन किंगफिशर. अभी मैं उसको, प्लीज डिलीट दैट लेक्चर बिकॉज इट हैज ए स्टडी ऑफ सहारा देयर. दैट इज द प्रोसेस. So it is a clear-cut case of insider trading. The whole family, like Rama Raju, his brother, sold 1 crore 13 lakh shares before the collapse. He himself sold 98 lakh shares. Their wives, their associate companies, they offloaded. So it is a clear-cut case. और मालूम है आपको, SEBI regulation 92, उसमें already 10 साल की जेल है insider trading में, and the fine up to 25 crores. कहाँ है SEBI? Have they अब जब बहुत बोलना शुरू किया लोगों ने क्या है और ये चीजें सब हाईलाइट हो रही हैं, अब एक महीना पहले SEBI ने अनाउंस किया है कि वो एक्शन लेगी इसमें रेगुलेशन में 92 में इंसाइडर ट्रेडिंग रेगुलेशन और नए एक्ट में. यस आई एम कंक्लूडिंग, डोंट वरी अबाउट. So the role of the watchdogs is questionable. Also, देखिए, it is a clear cut case, not only this, collusion between auditors and management. तो मैंने अपनी स्टडी में सजेस्ट किया कि there is a need to reform the audit education. आप ध्यान करिए, मैं कमेंट नहीं कर रहा हूं इस एजुकेशन पे ज्यादा. ये जो एग्जाम होता है सीए का और उसके बाद में क्वालिफाई करने के बाद जब ट्रेनिंग होती है इंटर्नशिप, पहला लेसन मालूम मैंने सुना है जो, और कंफर्म भी किया बहुत लोगों से बात करके, हाउ टू मेक फेक बैलेंस शीट, how to adjust vouchers. That is, in the country you are creating since day one economic offenders. You are giving it kind of that training, and so there is a need to reform that area also. Though out of around 3 dozen recommendations which I submitted in that study, it is published in my book. 2010 वाली बुक में है, और about half a dozen recommendations they are there in the new law, Companies Act 2013, as it is with minor changes. So I am very happy. I recommended that the power to nominate the independent directors, it should be given to a body should be advised to prepare a panel of eminent people, and the companies be advised to pick up names from that panel. It is there in the new law. I recommended that there is a need to rotate the auditors. It is there in the new law. ये मैंने उसके बाद सेकंड एडिशन नहीं आया उस बुक का, उसमें आप देखिए जो लाइब्रेरी में पढ़ी हो वहां पर माइनर सा चेंज करके वो है. आई रिकमेंडेड दैट देयर इज अ नीड टू हैव क्लास एक्शन सूट इन द कंट्री. इट इज देयर इन द न्यू लॉ. सत्यम में क्या हुआ, 6-7 investors based as USA under class action suit, they filed a claim against the company new management claiming 6,005 crores as a compensation under class action. इतना पावरफुल है वो. And so we have that clause here, and the new management had to settle the claim 100%. And I recommended, number of other, recommendations were there in this. That is, so about half a dozen recommendations they have been there in the new law. Plus, I recommended. अब वो नहीं किया. मैं बोला एक बार, there was the minister corporate affairs sitting. He was the chief guest. मैंने कहा, it was a conference on new law. मैंने कहा, the root of the corruption in the country is political funding. And so it should be banned. Yes, we had a complete ban up to 1985, and then it was allowed in 1985 by amending that section, and up to the company could contribute towards political activities and political funding up to 5% of the net profit. It is a huge amount. मैंने कहा इसको खत्म करिए, बजाय खत्म करने के उसको बढ़ा दिया है नए लॉ में. It has been increased from 5% to 7.5%. दूसरा मैंने कहा there is a need to have whistleblower mechanism in the new law. हाँ, क्लास 49 में तो डाल दिया है हमने. नॉन कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर के लिए तो एक्ट पास कर दिया विसल ब्लोअर, लेकिन आपने सुना है कि उसको इंप्लीमेंट किया, अब तक इंप्लीमेंट नहीं हुआ. सो बहुत कुछ हो, जैसा कि हमारे चीफ गेस्ट ने कहा, बहुत कुछ नए कंपनी लॉ में है और अभी बहुत कुछ करना बाकी है. एंड सो उसमें बड़ा पावरफुल प्रोविजन है सर CSR पे. I think we are in a very privileged condition that we are the only country in the world that we have CSR in the statute. There are only 2 countries, Indonesia and France, which have CSR in the statute, but in a very loose form. But our CSR law is so rigorous, so tough. The corporates, they were most scared of, and they are most scared of now of that law on CSR. और ये मिरेकल कैसे हुए? इतना इस तरह का लॉ हमें कैसे मिला है? ये इट वॉज पॉसिबल बिकॉज ऑफ द कंप्रोमाइज बिटवीन रूलिंग पार्टी, दी देन रूलिंग पार्टी एंड द अपोजिशन पार्टी। मैं तो खुल के बोलता हूं, हमारे यहां देश में मिरेकल होते हैं जब दोनों पार्टियां मिलती हैं। एंड दिस न्यू लॉ इज एन एग्जाम्पल। द स्टैंडिंग कमेटी ऑफ पार्लियामेंट वॉज चेयर बाई यशवंत सिन्हा, ए बीजेपी मैन, एंड द रूलिंग पार्टी आपको पता है ये कांग्रेस थी। इट वॉज ए बिल, कभी गया आया गया 6-7 बार वो रीइंट्रोड्यूस हुआ। फाइनली व्हेन देयर वाज ए कंप्रोमाइज बिटवीन बोथ द पार्टीज एंड देन वी हैव द टफेस्ट लॉ ऑन CSR, दैट इज। और अब मोदी जी को तो अब मिल गया वो पका पकाया। स्वच्छ अभियान पर पिछले 3 दिन पहले डायरेक्शंस हुई हैं सभी कंपनीज को, और स्पेशली PSUs के लिए मैंडेटरी कर दिया गया है। And the amount is to be spent, at least 2% of the net profit will have to be spent on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, including building, toilets and cleaning and this and that. Thank you everyone listening so patiently. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Sharma sir. It was really a nice learning experience, something new we have learned of corporate governance. Sir, when Department of Commerce, Delhi University organized this commerce convention, I also went there and I was being invited. Professor Abdul Kalam, Dr. Abdul Kalam came in that session. I asked a question to Abdul Kalam ji that how we can have the good governance in the country. So after JP Sharma sir, 10 people asked me, are you the student of JP Sharma sir? So you have been symbolized, with the corporate governance, and rather I should say corporate governance is a symbol of you sir. So wherever corporate governance is heard, JP Sharma sir's name is heard sir. So that is a very great sir to be, have you here in the conference. Have a big round of applause for sir. These are the words I always remember for our Honorable Chairman Sir, Dr. Nand Kishore ji, that heights by great men reached and kept were not attained in a sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards in the night, toiling upwards in the night. I mean, he's so hardworking and a humble person. Dr. Nand Kishore Garg is a founder chairman of Maharaja Agrsingh Technical Education Society, ex-member Legislative Assembly, NCT Delhi, and also the Chancellor of Maharaja Agrsingh University, Baddi. Dr. Garg is recognized and known among the masses for his selfless efforts done for the upbringing of the society. He has been involved in various noble causes related to the development and betterment of Delhi as well as adjoining states such as Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh and Rajasthan. Apart from being a successful politician, renowned social worker, Shri Garg is also actively engaged in the field of education. He has received many awards for his contribution to education, social work and politics. He has been honored with D.Litt degree by one of the oldest universities of India, Gurukul University, Haridwar. I request Dr. Nand Kishore ji Garg to bless us with his kind words. Sir, please.
2 दिन के इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में आप सबका स्वागत है। हमारे निमंत्रण पर पुरवार साहब आए हैं, एम्बेसी से जमील साहब आए हैं, बाकी मेरे 2 देशों से और लोग आए हैं, और प्रोफेसर JP शर्मा ने काफ़ी विस्तार से कॉरपोरेट गवर्नेंस का और ख़ास तौर पे गवर्नेंस के अंदर सत्यम का, जिसका कल ही डिसीजन आया, उसके ऊपर काफ़ी विस्तार से बताया। ये सब चीज़ें करने के लिए डॉक्टर CS शर्मा जी, उनके सभी सहयोगियों ने कई दिन से प्रयास किया है, और आज इसमें निर्मला सीतारमन जी को भी आना था, परंतु मोदी जी के साथ फ्रांस, जर्मन और कनाडा की यात्रा में जाने के कारण आज नहीं आ पाई हैं। मैं इस 2 दिन की कॉन्फ्रेंस की सफलता की कामना करता हूं और आशा करता हूं कि आप इसमें पूरा मन लगा के अपना समय लगाएंगे और कुछ जो सीखेंगे उसको आगे, जितने मेरे फैकल्टी मेंबर्स हैं वो आगे इसको आने वाले वर्षों में अपने स्टूडेंट्स के माध्यम से प्रैक्टिकल ये कैसे इसको शेप दी जा सकती है, जो कुछ हम देखते हैं सुनते हैं, क्योंकि अंत में फिर वही बात है कि कानून जितने ज़्यादा बनते जाएंगे, कंपनी एक्ट बनना शुरू हुआ था शायद डालमियाज के कारण, और इतना बल्कि हो गया कि उसकी इंटरप्रिटेशन उसमें ही बड़े बड़े वकीलों को और कोर्ट के लोगों की मौज हो रही है, और इस देश की जनता को उससे शायद अभी तक कुछ विशेष प्राप्त नहीं हो पाया। इतने एक्ट और सब कुछ होने के बाद सेबी भी है, आरबीआई भी है, और 10,000 करोड़ 20,000 करोड़ 1 लाख करोड़ के घपले होते रहें और हमारे कानून उसको देखते रहें, और उस पर सज़ा पहली बार सुनी है किसी को ढंग से होती हुई, और वो भी केवल 7 साल की। अगर 14,000 करोड़ के घपले के बाद उसको भी प्रकट उसने स्वयं किया, किसी एजेंसी ने उसको नहीं पकड़ा था, उसने अपने आप ही लगा कि अब ये खेल लंबा नहीं चलेगा, तो खुद ही उसने एडमिशन किया था। तो इस प्रकार के तो बहुत घपले चल रहे हैं, और अभी पर्ल सामने आया, सहारा आया, और इसी टाइप की बहुत स्कीम्स और बहुत ऐसे लोग हैं जो लोगों को उल्लू बनाकर और अपना पैसा इकट्ठा करके इधर उधर हो जाते हैं। तो हम स्टडी करेंगे इसको, स्टडी करके आगे इसको कैसे, इसको अंत में फिर मैं समझता हूँ कि एथिक्स और ये सब हमारे मन भाव हैं, मनोभाव से ही अपने ऊपर अंकुश लगाएगा। हिंदुस्तान में जब चरित्र की बात आएगी तो ये सारी चीज़ें ठीक होंगी, अन्यथा इस देश के अंदर कितने ही हम कानून बना लें और कितने ही बहस कर लें, अंत में जो जेपी शर्मा साहब भी घुमा फिरा के बात कह गए अपनी, कि अंत में सही चीज़ें तो होंगी, हम अपने पुरानी वैल्यूज़ पे ही आना पड़ेगा, जिसको CS शर्मा जी ने प्रस्ताव में थोड़ा कहा था। हम गंभीरता से विचार विमर्श करेंगे, ये मुझे आशा है, और मैं पुनः महाराजा अग्रसेन टेक्निकल एजुकेशन सोसाइटी की ओर से अपने सभी मेहमानों का बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, Nankishore Garg sir, for your blessings and wishes for the successful completion of the conference. Mr. Ashish Jain has started his career as a management trainee, international business with Sahara India International Corporation Limited. After that, he worked in different capacities in Federation of Indian Export Organization like Assistant Director, Deputy Director, Joint Director. Presently, he is working as a Director of Federation of Indian Export Organization. He is extensively working hard to develop, in the area of international business. He is having 18 years of vast experience. May I request Ashish Jain sir to share your views regarding on the theme, on the topic, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. A very good afternoon to all of you. It is indeed my honor and privilege to be part of this august gathering. I would like to thank Dr. Garg, Chairman of Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, various diplomats present, experts, speakers, faculty members, and budding entrepreneurs, I would say. The topic of today's discussion or international conference on corporate governance, which is going to be held for 2 days, I understand, the second edition, is very apt, appropriate, and relevant. In fact, my previous speakers has mentioned that corporate governance has been there for past so many years, almost say 20 years in existence or more than that. But I must say that it has not percolated down the industry. It has almost remained in papers and has not been taken in the real spirit. We have been informed about various industries, various corporate organizations who have failed, probably who had failed in their delivery, failed in terms of finances, which has affected the masses. The talk was about Sahara. I worked in Sahara for 1 year and I had seen the working over there. It really feels very sad and hard to hear about the financial things which has been happening around. Because I have seen Sahara working very closely, the ethics and the other things which were inbuilt in the management. But it's really very unfortunate. Why do we need corporate governance? Why we are talking about corporate governance today? Why it has more relevance? I'm not an expert on corporate governance as per se, but what I understand is that it involves lot of stakeholders to provide value to them. And who are all these stakeholders? Stakeholders are you, stakeholders are me, stakeholders are society. Unless and until we are answerable to the society, answerable to us, we are not going to achieve anything. Corporate governance starts from ourselves. It is not a subject which needs to be taught at the management level. I think it is the subject which needs to be taught from the very early childhood level. It is a kind of a value system that needs to be incorporated in the individuals so that when they become responsible to take charge of the corporate and the organizations, they have those values with them. And that is how, because at the helm of the corporate affairs, at the top of the organization management, it is you and me who are working for the betterment of the organization and for the self. And if we are putting our own interest first, rather than the organization interest or the society interest, I think we are not doing the correct thing. That needs to be understood, that needs to be introspected, that needs to be thought about. We need to make ourselves, first of all, think about why do we need this, and we need to be answerable to the society and to the ourselves. In terms of the globalization, it is an international conference. Why we have gathered here? Because of the global development which are taking place. We cannot isolate ourselves or our companies from integrating into global economy. I am from Federation of Indian Export Organization, an organization who is into promotion of international trade. We are this year celebrating 50 years of our inception. We have more than 20,000 exporter members from small, medium, large enterprises. Why do we need corporate governance more now than any other time? Global economies are integrating. We are signatory to WTO. We were a member of WTO a long time back. We opened our economy in 1991. It's been more than 24 years. But where do we stand today? Has anybody of us thought over it? The recent Doing Business report ranked India at 142 in terms of ease of doing business out of 189 economies that were surveyed. Imagine, where do we stand? Recently, foreign trade policy has been declared. You must be knowing it if you are a student of international business. Even if you are not, you must be aware about it. We have set an export target of $900 billion by 2020. Any guesses how we are going to achieve that? We need to have a strong corporate governance within ourselves. Today we are not talking about domestic production or domestic sales. We have become transnational. We are sitting here manufacturing in, say, Africa, exporting to European countries. Unless and until we build in those standards in the organizations, we are bound to fail. And then how we are going to achieve a target of $900 billion? Or say an export share, India's share of around 3.5% in global exports. At present, we have 1.7% in global export, India's share. How we are going to do that? I think the conference has various sessions, various panelists who would be there, who would be discussing about how we can achieve this. I think this is a very appropriate conference and session, keeping in view the global development taking place and the synergies we must take out from that. There is a campaign of Make in India. Our Honorable Prime Minister has made this campaign, and he is, in all his efforts, is trying to do that. He is visiting various countries, trying to uplift the image of our country. Why he is doing so? We need investments. We need foreign direct investment in our countries to build our infrastructure, ports, and other things. We see that he is going abroad, traveling, but what he is doing, if you go and study deeply, go to Ministry of External Affairs side, we are signing a lot of MOUs with those governments. MOUs for joint collaborations. What do we mean by joint collaboration? Joint collaboration means we would be working with multinationals. If multinationals comes over here and they find no corporate governance, do you feel that they would remain here, would be interested to have a joint collaboration with Indian companies and work? No. We need to study that. Manufacturing plays a very important role, and in manufacturing, corporate governance has a significance. Around 45% of the manufacturing takes place through MSME, micro, small and medium enterprises, and they contribute around 40% of India's exports. Here we need to understand why we are talking about corporate governance and what is the relevance. It needs to be incorporated in each and every enterprise of our country. If you really want to uplift our economy, if you are talking about, say, double-digit export growth, it can be achievable. It's not like that it cannot be achievable, but we need to have those systems in place, those values, those ethics in our organization. We need to build up that trust amongst the employees, management, board members, so that that value systems gets percolated down the lower level. These were some of the thoughts which I thought that I would be sharing with you. As we are already running out of the time, I would like to thank Maharaja Agrawal Institute of Management Study for really taking up this initiative for organizing this conference. I would like to wish them all the success and all the success to all the participants. Thank you.